You know how every neighborhood has that one person, the self-appointed guardian of order who believes their interpretation of the rule book is sacred scripture? In our HOA, that person was Karen. She wasn't technically on the board anymore. She'd resigned after a scandal involving landscaping funds. But that didn't stop her from patrolling with a clipboard and the moral authority of a traffic cop at rush hour. The story really began the week before my daughter Lily's 8th birthday. We were finally doing an outdoor party, balloons, music, a rented bounce house, the whole suburban dream. After 2 years of quiet drive-by birthdays, Lily wanted to invite the entire block's kids. Everyone was excited, except Karen. And trust me, what happens next is straight out of a suburban spy movie. If you love true story HOA showdowns and satisfying neighborhood justice, hit that subscribe button now, because this one gets wild. Karen lived across the cul-de-sac, diagonally across from our driveway. She somehow caught wind of the party before I even sent invitations. She appeared at my door one morning in her trademark pink visor and a grim expression that could stop a recycling truck mid-route. "Have you filed your event request form?" she asked, waving her phone with the HOA website open. I told her it was just a child's birthday, not a rock concert. We'd be done by sunset. That answer must have offended her down to her bones. She began reciting HOA bylaws like a courtroom clerk. Sections 4A through 4F, noise restrictions, parking limits, even a line about temporary structures. Apparently, bounce houses were against the aesthetic harmony of the subdivision. "Karen, it's one afternoon," I tried. She gave me the smile of someone who'd already typed a complaint draft in her notes app. "Rules preserve property value," she said before stomping back across the street. By evening, I got an official email from the HOA board. Concerned residents have raised issues regarding event disturbances. I didn't need to read the sender's name to know who the resident was. That was when things got, shall we say, strategic. I decided not to cancel. Instead, I started gathering everything. Emails, voicemail messages, even the little warning slips she stuck on my trash can lids about misaligned bins. Karen had left a trail longer than a CVS receipt. The next morning, our mailbox had a printed notice, "Unauthorized party subject to fines up to $500. She'd posted similar ones on other houses too, anyone associated with the guest list. It was supposed to isolate me. Instead, it backfired. Neighbors started knocking on my door in disbelief. "She can't fine us for attending a party," Mrs. Green said, holding the notice like a crime scene photo. Mr. Patel from the corner house grinned and muttered, "I'm bringing my grill now, just on principle." It was as if Karen had declared war on friendship itself, and the block wasn't having it. Still, the official threat of fines carried weight. I needed proof, evidence that she was acting outside her authority, maybe even impersonating the HOA. So that night, I installed a discreet camera on my porch light. I had a feeling her clipboard rounds weren't over. Sure enough, the next day around 10 p.m., motion alert popped up. There she was, flashlight in hand, photographing our yard decorations. Her muttering was faint but clear enough. "This will show them." I watched in disbelief as she tugged one balloon free to take a sample. Who collects balloon evidence at night? The footage became my ace card. I forwarded the clip to the real HOA president, a quiet but decent guy named Roger, who usually let Karen handle community engagement. His reply came fast. "She is not authorized to issue notices or fines. Please forward everything you have." The party wasn't even there yet, but the battle lines were drawn. What began as a child's celebration had turned into a full-on suburban legal thriller, one pink visor versus everyone tired of her reign. And the best part? The neighborhood hadn't even started fighting back yet. Roger, the actual HOA president, called me the next morning sounding simultaneously apologetic and alarmed. Apparently, Karen had been forwarding official violation notices under an old email alias she'd created years ago, complete with the HOA logo and her self-assigned title, Community Standards Liaison. The problem? That title hadn't existed since 2019. "Technically," Roger said carefully, "she's impersonating an HOA officer. We may need to involve counsel if she keeps this up." He didn't need to tell me twice. My inner detective was already humming. I started piecing together a digital paper trail, every message, timestamp, and photo. But this war wasn't just mine anymore. The neighbors wanted in. It started with small acts of defiance. Mrs. Green put up a massive banner above her driveway that read, "Happy Birthday, Lily," in pink glitter letters. The Patels offered to set up extra chairs and a cotton candy machine. Even quiet Mr. Lewis, the retired deputy, volunteered to monitor for disturbances, which was code for keeping his security cam pointed straight at Karen's front yard. Karen must have felt the unity building, because she doubled down. The night before the party, new notice of noncompliance slips appeared, stuck to everyone's mailboxes. I knew she was behind it. Again, because the format matched her old circulars exactly. Comic Sans headings, tone halfway between judge and preacher. That's when things escalated from annoying to illegal. Mr. Lewis's camera caught her sneaking into the cul-de-sac at 3:17 a.m., flashlight sweeping over driveways. And at one mailbox, she slipped in another fake citation until the light caught her face full on. Crystal clear. Direct evidence. The next morning, our group chat erupted with screenshots and laughing emojis. Caught the HOA vigilante red-handed, someone wrote. By that afternoon, every homeowner affected had emailed the footage to Roger and the County Code Enforcement Office. Roger called an emergency HOA meeting for the following Monday, but the mood in the neighborhood turned from anxious to electric. Saturday, Lily's party day, arrived under clear skies. I expected tension, maybe even a passive-aggressive lawn chair standoff. What I got instead was unity that could make a Hollywood screenwriter weep. Everyone came. Every single family Karen had tried to intimidate. Parents, kids, dogs, even a bouncy castle repair guy who refused to charge because, in his words, this is a rebellion now. By noon, our cul-de-sac had turned into something between a block rally and a carnival. I thought Karen would stay inside, blinds drawn, silently disapproving. Wrong. At 1:05 p.m., she marched out in full battle regalia. Visor, clipboard, a neon vest, and a stack of what looked like violation forms. She approached the bounce house with two men I didn't recognize, both wearing polo shirts embroidered with Neighborhood Compliance Services. Private security. She'd hired them. But the moment they started taking photos, Mr. Lewis strolled over, holding his phone with the recorded evidence from the night before. "Ma'am," he said politely, flashing his retired badge, "before you go handing out fake citations, maybe you should explain this footage to the Real HOA board. You're not authorized to be here." Karen's face drained of color. The security guys exchanged looks like bouncers realizing they'd crashed a kid's tea party. And then came the collective stare, the kind that only an entire street full of fed-up neighbors can produce. "Unless your job is to enjoy some cake," Mrs. Green added sweetly, "we'll have to ask you to leave." Karen hesitated, weighing her pride against what was now a full-blown public embarrassment. Then, muttering about ungrateful residents, she turned and stormed back to her house, her vest flapping like a defeated flag. The party roared on. Kids screamed joyfully, music thumped, and no one cared about HOA Section 4F anymore. Still, I knew it wasn't over. Monday's meeting would decide if Karen would finally be held accountable, or somehow twist the story into martyrdom. By evening, Roger texted, "Bring your footage, your emails, and any written notices she issued. We're sorting this once and for all." The next showdown wouldn't be on driveways or mailboxes. It'd be at the heart of HOA power itself. And this time, the cameras would keep rolling. Monday arrived with the tension of a courtroom drama. The HOA meeting was held in the community clubhouse, a sterile room with linoleum floors, fluorescent lighting, and the faint smell of overbrewed coffee. Normally, these gatherings involved two topics, grass height and parking decals. But tonight, there was a quiet, delicious buzz, half outrage, half expectation. Everyone knew why the place was packed. Karen arrived early, of course, clipboard tucked under her arm. She strode in like a CEO about to fire half her staff. People parted for her, but not with respect, more like cautious curiosity. She didn't acknowledge anyone. She just set up her papers in front of the projector, as if she were the one running the show. Then Roger entered. Now, Roger wasn't the charismatic type, an accountant by trade, perpetually hiding inside beige sweaters. But when he began, the room stilled. "We have received serious complaints," he said, his tone clipped but steady. "And video evidence. Before we proceed, I'd like everyone to know this discussion is being recorded for record-keeping and transparency." Karen smirked, clearly thinking she'd outmaneuver this. I'm glad you said that, Roger. Because I have evidence, too, of widespread rule violations, excessive noise, and unpermitted gatherings. That was her mistake, opening the floor before realizing what we had ready. Roger nodded. We'll review those after we examine your recent activities, Mrs. Perkins. Mrs. Perkins, the name no one but the HOA bylaws used. People whispered. This was already blood sport. He clicked the first clip onto the screen. Our porch cam footage played. Karen prowling around at midnight, tugging balloons from my fence like she was collecting contraband. A few gasps broke the silence. Someone stifled a laugh when her visor nearly blew off in the wind. Karen's arms crossed tighter. That's taken out of context, she said. I was verifying a violation. Roger's eyebrows lifted. At 10:47 p.m.? Without authorization? Using your former account email address? That brings us to Exhibit B. Then came Mr. Lewis's camera footage. Her slipping papers into mailboxes at 3 a.m. The timestamp glowed like a neon confession. You could practically hear her credibility crumble. Karen tried interrupting, claimed fake video, perhaps deep fake harassment. The crowd muttered. Roger calmly turned to her printouts, holding one sheet up. These violation forms you distributed. This is not our letterhead, nor is this your title. You effectively impersonated the HOA. Gasps again. Someone near the back whispered, she's toast. Karen leaned forward, desperate now. I was preserving community order. You all liked how I used to run things. And that's when the twist took shape. A man in a navy blazer raised his hand. He wasn't a resident. He introduced himself as Mr. Hughes, County Code Enforcement. Mr. President, he said politely, I've reviewed the footage and correspondence you forwarded. Mrs. Perkins's conduct constitutes potential harassment and misrepresentation of a governing body. Our office will open a formal inquiry. Karen froze. Actual legal stakes. The room went utterly still for a moment. Then someone clapped. Just one person at first, then another. Within seconds, half the room applauded as Karen sat stiffly, her visor trembling slightly under the fluorescent light. Even Roger, who rarely smiled, allowed himself a tiny victorious grin. Thank you, Mr. Hughes. To summarize, Mrs. Perkins, your privileges as a community committee volunteer are permanently suspended. All unauthorized fees and warnings are invalidated. And, given the collective effort of this block, I suggest we introduce a Community Unity Day event to replace your, compliance walkthroughs. The crowd erupted in cheers. Lily's friends giggled in the back with their parents, clearly not understanding the bureaucracy, but sensing justice had been served. Karen stood, voice strangled between outrage and disbelief. You'll regret this. You're all setting a dangerous precedent. As she stormed out, Roger added, almost softly, rules preserve community, Karen, but so does kindness. That line landed like a gavel hit. Afterward, we spilled into the cool evening, laughing under the streetlights. People hugged, neighbors who'd barely waved before swapped stories, and someone even set off a sparkler from the leftover party supplies. My phone buzzed with Roger's last message of the night. Your daughter's birthday brought the neighborhood together. Not bad for one little rebellion. A week later, a notice went out. Karen had officially moved for personal reasons. Her house listed at a modest loss, the irony not lost on any of us. Every time Lily rode past on her scooter, she pointed at the empty driveway and said, that's where the balloon thief used to live. And honestly, that summed it up perfectly. In a neighborhood that once lived in quiet compliance, one child's birthday became the line in the sand, a reminder that community isn't controlled by clipboards or fake bylaws, but by the people who actually live there, side by side. And for the record, the next year, the HOA itself rented the bounce house.